Hey dudes! So I know a lot of you have said that you don't like long intros on my reading scary stories videos, so I will just start the stories now. I'm gonna be reading more of your paranormal stories that you guys have sent to me in this video. I chose 4 stories this time to read. So let's get into it. So this first story comes from someone named Karina. I think it's Karina. I'll put the spelling here just in case I'm pronouncing it wrong. So Karina says, I don't really have any major experiences with the paranormal. Actually, I've never had anything paranormal happen to me up until now. I have 2 stories to share. The first one isn't much though. It started about a month ago. I was sketching and listening to music on my laptop. I closed the sketchbook and set it aside as I usually do, then paused the video on my laptop and closed it. I sat there for about 3 more minutes in silence, texting, and then I went downstairs. When I came back up into my room, the laptop was still closed, but the music was playing and my sketchbook was open at the page I was drawing on. Nobody came upstairs to mess with it. The second story is much creepier. One night, I opened the window to my room and went downstairs for a while. I was alone as my parents were sleeping upstairs and my sister wasn't home at the time. After a few hours, I came back upstairs to go to sleep. I was about to close the window when I saw something on it. There was a handprint on the outside of the window. It was made from a thick layer of dust. I quickly closed it and went straight under the covers. At first, I thought it was a big handprint, so the next day I asked everybody in the house if they did something to the window, but they never entered the room in the first place. On second glance, the handprint is actually smaller than my hand, and I have the smallest hands in the house. Nobody could have left that handprint. Also, the fingers on it look too weird to be from a normal hand. I still get chills thinking about it. So there was a picture included, and I'll put it right here for you guys to see. And just as Karina stated, the fingers do look like they're going different directions. At least the first 3, like the thumb, index, and middle finger, look like they're going different directions than the ring and pinky finger are going. Yeah, I don't know, super creepy. I think that especially because you had 2 different experiences happen. I'm assuming that the first one happened first and then the second one happened maybe shortly after. It does definitely seem like something is messing with you in some sort of way, maybe kind of like taunting you in a way. Whenever you leave your room, it leaves something for you to notice. Okay, so the second story comes from someone named Emily, and she says, Hey Ashley, I've been watching your videos for a super long time and I wanted to tell you one of my paranormal experiences. It's super long, but I think you'll enjoy the story. Okay, so ever since I was a little girl, I would always see this very tall, dark male figure in my peripheral vision. But I always thought it was my mind playing tricks on me because every time I would turn around to look, nothing would be there. I remember seeing it in the hallway of my old house and behind my older brother's door most of the time. I kind of thought it was one of those scared of the monster in the closet phases that I would just grow out of, but no. I would still see it every now and then, even when I moved into my new house. Looking back now, I don't think it was a ghost that died in the house, but more of a spirit that occasionally checked up on me. I feel like that's worse. Oh, that just the wording, occasionally checking up on you, creeps me out. I started seeing it a bit more in the corner of my eyes, but I started to get used to it and wouldn't check to see if it was real anymore. A few months ago, my grandpa died, and at his wake, both my mom and I heard a loud sigh coming from our left, but there was no one there, and we had no idea what it came from. I also saw that dark figure in my peripheral vision again a few moments later, and I thought there might be some sort of connection between the 2 occurrences. Later that day, we were all mourning at my grandmother's house, and my brother randomly started telling one of his stories of being on a weekend retreat with about 30 other boys, and they were all in bunk beds in the same room when a 7 to 8 foot man walked into the room, according to my brother. He mentioned that about 15 other boys saw this figure, but could not see a face as it was just like a shadow. They then saw the man walk back through the door without opening it. I had heard my brother tell this story before, but this time I stopped him and told him that I had seen that shadowy man before. He thought I was kidding, but we both described him as tall, wearing a long trench coat and wearing a hat. Oh my god, I know this. I think you're talking about the Hat Man. Ooh, my voice just did something weird. The Hat Man's a very popular shadow figure that people see. If you look up Hat Man shadow figure, there will be more on him, but people with like, did you say top hat? You said wearing a hat. But people do describe him as a tall, dark shadow figure with a hat, and I think sometimes a trench coat as well. So it is very possible that you guys saw this shadow figure. My cousins then pulled up a picture of different kinds of hats to see if my brother and I identified the same one that the figure would wear. We did. I then told him about how I used to see him all the time in our old house, and my brother told me that he used to wake up in the middle of the night and see him standing behind his bedroom door, exactly where I used to see him. We both never mentioned this to each other until that moment, as we both thought it was just tricks in our head. I still see the shadow man every now and then, but my theory is that he appears when you are innocent or in a weak state of mind, because I always saw him as an innocent child. He appeared in a room full of 30 teenagers with half of them innocently sleeping, and he appeared at my grandpa's funeral when there was so much pain and sorrow in one place where everyone was in a weak state of mind. I've done some research on the shadow man and found that apparently a lot of kids saw this man with a trench coat and a hat. I don't think I'll ever understand its intentions, but I don't think it's here to hurt me. I truly believe it's watching over me and protecting me from being taken advantage of in those innocent moments. By the way, I love your videos so much, and I'm sorry if this was a lot to read, but I thought I would share. Never apologize for writing too much. Ghosts, spirits, dark entities, things like that, things of that nature are very drawn to people when they are weak, when they're sad, when they're mad. I would use depression as an example. If somebody is like in a very, very bad place or like very upset or something, or having a really bad episode, those kind of entities like to feed off of that, and that is when you do see them, or, well, not all times, you don't only see them in those, but it's more likely that they'll show up to feed off of that energy because they do like the lower energies. So for example, happy energies are like up here, and then like the negative ones, negative as in like sadness, anger, stuff like that's down here. They want to feed off of people who are down here instead of up here. Up here they don't like, down here they like. I do believe that maybe that could have played a factor, but then again, I'm not sure. I don't know if we're talking about the same shadow figure, and then again, I don't know exactly what you saw, but those are just some of my theories and some of the knowledge that I do have on those kind of topics, and you can do with it as you will. Thank you for sharing your story. That was very interesting and very creepy. I hate when people see things at night, especially standing behind doors or coming into the room or like peering into the room, or I don't like things at night when people are laying in bed and see things. It freaks me out. For example, marble hornets. Does everybody here know what marble hornets is? If not, Marble Hornets is an ARG internet series that took place when I was in high school. I think I found it. One of my friends showed it to me. But it revolves around Slender Man. And there's this one episode, I can't remember if it's like episode 14, 15, 16. One of those, I think it's like one of the teens. The character, the main character who the documentary is about, is sleeping in bed, and you just see Slender Man like creepily walk into his room. And I cannot watch that. Still to this day, I cannot watch that episode without freaking out. Once I get a mental image of something being in a dark room or coming into a dark room that shouldn't be there, I can't sleep at night. And so that's something that terrifies me deeply, is things that happen at night when people are sleeping. I think it's because of like the vulnerability of like sleeping in bed or just in the dark. I think, again, my fear of the dark. Yeah, I don't know. Sorry to go off on like a little tangent, but I thought I would bring it up. If you haven't seen Marble Hornets, I really recommend going to watch it. It is very interesting. It's a very deep hole you could go down with that. This next story comes from a girl named Kayla, and she says, I wanted to send you one of my most memorable paranormal experiences. Fair warning, it's a little sad. I grew up in a house with my mom, grandma, aunt, and great-grandma. My great-grandma was my best friend. That's so cute. Every day when I would get home from school, I'd throw my backpack against the main entrance wall and sprint to my Grammy Tink's, oh, Grammy Tink's, that's so cute, to my Grammy Tink's room to tell her about my day. If I was happy, she was too. If I was sad and crying, she'd cry with me. She was my world and I was hers. Grammy Tink's health started to decline and she needed constant care, which my family couldn't provide due to work and busy schedules, so we had to move her into a retirement home. It was hard because I went from seeing her every day to seeing her only on the weekends. When I turned 9, everything started going wrong health-wise for my Grammy Tink. She was forgetting everyone. She was told she'd never be able to walk again due to her constantly falling because she was forgetting how to walk. She was miserable. On July 2nd, 2006, I went to go visit her because I missed her. When we got there, I was the only person she remembered in that room. She smiled and started talking to me about how much I had grown and how much she loved me. I sat on her bed and fed her pineapples, and we talked for hours. My mom said that it was getting late and we needed to go home, and I jumped off the bed, gave her a big hug and kiss, and said I loved her, which she replied saying, I love you more. I got home and went upstairs feeling happy. At 2:30 a.m., I'll never forget that time, I heard someone say my name, which caused me to wake up. I looked around but saw no one, so I tried to go back to sleep when I heard my name again. I sat up, obviously confused, and turned my light on. I had an armoire at the end of my bed with the doors at the top open. I noticed 2 legs standing behind it. I said hello and saw my Grammy Tink walk out from behind the left door that was next to my window. I smiled from ear to ear because I was so happy to see her, although she looked so different from the last time I saw her. She was standing upright when before she had a hunch back. She was much thinner than before. She smiled at me and walked over to my bed and sat down. We proceeded to talk until 4:45 a.m. She then said, "You should really get some sleep, Pumpkin. You have a very busy day tomorrow. I'll see you again soon, okay? I love you so much." To which I replied, "I love you more." She grabbed my hand, stood up, and walked back towards my armoire, and just disappeared, but I honestly didn't think anything of it at the time. The next morning, July 3rd, 2006, I went to summer camp, happier than ever, until my mom came to pick me up early. She never picked me up early. Her eyes were swollen and red. She looked down at me and said, "Kayla, I have something I need to tell you." But before she could say another word, I blurted out, "Grammy Tinks is dead, isn't she?" My mom was shocked and asked how I knew. I didn't want to believe my own words, but I just knew. In that moment, I realized that I would never see my best friend again. It was the most painful day of my life. But I am so great she came to see me one last time. She always came through for me until the very end. Sorry for the sad story, but this is the only happy paranormal story I have. All my other paranormal experiences were terrifying. If you want to hear more, let me know. I'd love to share. And then she included a picture of her grandma, and I'll put it here for you guys to see. She looks like such a little sweet lady. Oh. Thank you so much, Kayla, for sharing that. If you do want to share your other paranormal stories, please feel free to send them to me. That is a very sweet story, and really, thank you for sharing that. I like hearing stories about people who come to visit their loved ones one last time. It actually happened to my dad and his 2 sisters, so my 2 aunts. So my back's killing me, otherwise I would read more, but we're gonna go ahead and read one more story and then I'm gonna go ahead and go. This story comes from someone named Alexander. So he says, "Hey, I'm Alexander. I have been watching your videos for a long time now, so I think you would enjoy to read one of my paranormal stories, so here I go. I have had this shadow man watch me sleep since I was around 7 or 8. He was like pitch black and you couldn't really see through him even if the streetlight was on him. He was just full darkness. He was tall. I would guess about 6 foot or so. He never seemed threatening or bad, just unsettling. If the side of my bed was cleared, he would either sit on my bed or lay down and stare at me. Excuse me, what? He would lay down on your bed next to you and stare at you? Thank God I have never, ever had anything like this happen to me. I would pee myself. The bed would literally feel like it would dip. It would always wake me up and I would force my eyes shut and try to go back to sleep, but the sound of his breathing was haunting. Note, I'm partially deaf, so it had to be very audible for me to hear. He would also be at other people's houses when I stayed the night, but would keep his distance, typically standing in the corner. About 5 to 6 months ago, my mental health began to improve, and I was set to move out of my parents' house. He got aggressive. He would get face to face with me and would lightly growl as he breathed. I woke up with scratches at one point and told him strongly to go away. That was the last straw and I saged the house. He disappeared. My mental health was so good. Before I moved into my new house, I saged it. However, I saw him quite a few times, so I saged it again about a couple months ago. He hasn't shown up again yet. I'm still worried that I will wake up to him over me or that I won't wake up again because of him. Also, I hope you're having a good day. Thank you for reading. I hope you have some advice to get rid of him forever so I don't have to worry. Oh, you're so cute. First off, that has to be one of the most terrifying stories that I think I've read for one of these videos so far. Your shadow person, shadow man, whatever it is, sounds extremely aggressive and extremely confrontational. Things I've been told about the paranormal and these dark entities is that you always have to listen to your gut. If you are afraid of it, then it is something to be feared. If you're not, then it's not. If you are scared, which it sounds like you are, you're worried that you're gonna wake up to him over you, he is something to be feared. But that being said, holding on to that fear only makes him kind of feed off of it more. What I've been told, because I struggle a lot with fear as well, although things don't happen to me often, thank God things don't happen to me often. Fearing gives them more power, and you have to know that you are stronger than these things ever will be. So although there's that aspect of, oh my gosh, I'm scared of what this thing's gonna do to me, it can't hurt you if you don't let it. You did say that your mental health is better, so that is a good sign. Like I said earlier, spirits don't like people who are up here in like the light category, and they tend to cling to people who are down here in like the harder stages of life, or like going through tough times like one day or something. So trying to stay out of that like fear zone and out of like as much as you can. I know that that is very hard to do, and it's very easy to say and very hard to do. Trust me, I have my own issues that I'm going through, and I know that if people are just saying just don't do it, it's like, okay, you cured me, you know, like it's not gonna happen. I would continuously sage your house, maybe do it monthly or even every 2 weeks, something like that. There is a correct way to sage and there is an incorrect way to sage. Make sure all of your windows are open. Make sure you go clockwise, right? Yeah, I think it's clockwise. I believe it's clockwise. If I'm wrong, just look it up. There's like, if you just look up correct way to sage a house, it'll tell you. But the biggest thing is make sure that the windows are open so that the energy can leave and replace it with better, like more uplifting energy. If you're really scared of this thing, I would just take as many steps as you can. There's no amount that would be too much or like too precautious if you're very scared of something like this. Personally, I wouldn't call myself an expert on this type of stuff, so if anything I'm saying is wrong, I'm sorry, but I do feel like I know more than like the average person who's just like, oh, ghosts. If it's getting into your space and laying on your bed and growling in your face or breathing like in your ear, that's a little bit too close for comfort in my opinion. And you can always just tell it to go away if you see it, command it to leave. It has to listen to you. If you're religious, you can say the Lord's name or whatever other religion you believe in. You can always use that as well. Or you can just pray to angels and tell angels to come down and help you. Yeah, sorry to go off, but if you're very serious, I know how scary it can be to see something that you don't want to see and then live in fear of that. So I just wanted to help as much as I can if you're serious about getting it to go away. I really hope that it does go away for you and things get better. If you guys have not sent me any stories yet and you guys still want to, you can go ahead and send them to me over on Instagram in my DMs. I'm gonna go ahead and go. Thank you to everybody who sent their stories so far, and if you still want to send me some, I'm still open to receiving them. Thank you guys so much for watching. I love you guys, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye, everybody. Okay, so in 2 hours, I'm gonna go to my first spin class ever, and I'm like a little bit nervous because cardio-wise, like running and like biking, those are like not my strong suits. So I'm like a little bit nervous to know what the class is like, but I've heard that they turn off all the lights and play this like pump up music, you know, and so like I'm excited, but I'm also kind of nervous that I won't be able to catch up, but like fitness. We'll see. I'll let you guys know how it goes.